Right here on Hip Hop Connection, I have the one and only Calvin Richardson. What's going on,
Hey, what's happening, man? Everything is good.
Everything is great, man. Glad to have you in town. You got a lot of things on your plate. You working here, working there. You're going to be doing a show for us tomorrow.
That's right.
Tell us a little bit about your show.
Well, I'll be at the Carter Baron with Mint Condition tomorrow. So, you know, I have my live band with me, man. Just, you know, gonna put some of that music back out here in DC, man, that they've been missing for a while, because it's been a while since I've been back up in the area, you know?
Right, right. That's what we were talking about a little bit earlier, that, you know, you don't get to the East Coast much,
right,
but they keeping you, you know, on the West Coast with all these awards that you get.
Well, that's a good thing, you know what
right.
I mean? So I just stay working, you know what I mean? Keep putting that music out there, man, and, you know.
That's excellent. And talking about the awards, now we met last year at the ASCAP R&B Awards, because
right,
you were getting honored
right,
for one of your songs that you had written. Tell us about that.
That was for There Goes My Baby, for Charlie Wilson. So, you know, I got ASCAP Top Writer of the Year award for that, man. So, you know, the record did really well. You know, Charlie took it someplace, man, where, you know, not many people could have, you know.
I hear you.
And so, you know, that was my first ASCAP recognition award, or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? It felt good.
I'm sure it did. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk about the difference between being behind the scenes in the music industry and being in the spotlight in the music industry.
Okay.
That's cool. We'll be back right here on Hip Hop Connection with Calvin Richardson. Back in the studio, Hip Hop Connection, Calvin Richardson's in the house, man. Glad to have you. Now, you know, you do a lot of writing and you get recognition for that, but you also are a star in your own right on stage.
Right.
How do you juggle the two?
Well, there's really, my music is me, man, and, you know, writing, I mean, I just write about different things that I go through. So, you know, even if it's going to the stage, like, you know, it's a conversation that, you know, you and I may have walking down the hallway, you know what I'm saying? It
right,
can inspire a song. But, you know, I definitely love singing. That's first for me. Okay. You know, I grew up, you know, doing that. Like, writing was just a talent that I tapped into later on. And, you know, it's done well. I've done well in that area. Mm-hmm. You know, the creative part, that's great too. But I just love, you know, being on the stage and performing. Because, you know, it's like, you know, when you being creative, man, but when you see the whole thing come to life,
right? You
know what I mean?
Right.
You can appreciate it in a different way.
So how do you know which songs you're going to say, this is going to be my song and this I'm going to give away? Like, There Goes My Baby. I mean, you like, dang, I should have kept that for myself? Or you like, I'm glad I gave that to Charlie, that's for him? You
know, I really, honestly and truly, I never really get too attached to the songs, because they all are a part of me. You know what I mean? And it's just like, you know, something that's in me that I got to get out. Okay. You know, who's to say that if I had put that record out, There Goes My Baby for Charlie, it would have done as well for me? Who knows? Right. You know what I mean? Right. But, you know, the fact of the matter is, you know, I did, you know, write it along with Babyface, you know, and the song did great. The song went, you know, #1 all over, you know what I mean? And it stayed that way for many weeks, you know what I'm saying? It revitalized Charlie Wilson's music career. Definitely.
And when he was here, he told us a story about how he, you know, had been listening to song after song and was like, you know, I'm done listening, and his wife was like, you need to listen to this one. Yeah. He was like, whatever, and popped it in, and he was like, oh wow, yeah, I gotta do that. So I mean, for him to say that, and he's a legend, how did that make you feel?
I mean, it was great, because, you know, I remember when I was a kid, I was growing up, and you know, the very first record, man, that I ever bought was the Gap Band's record. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Burn Rub on Me. Like, you know, yeah, man. I went and bought
the Red album.
Yeah, you know, it's the very first album that I ever bought. And, you know, obviously, you know, that's Charlie and, you know, and his brothers. Right. And so, you know, and then back in 1999, I did a song on my album called Never Knew Love. Okay. Well, I got that song from a producer that had worked with Charlie. And Charlie had demoed the record, and they brought it to me. And it was like, yo, listen to this. And I'm like, hey, that's Charlie. So I re-sang the song, you know what I mean? Right. And then the ironic thing, like 10 years later, which I put that song on my first album, Country Boy. Then 10 years later, you know, Charlie gets one of my songs and redo it and take it all the way to the top. You know what I mean? It was crazy for me, you know?
That's a great career builder right there.
Yeah,
you know, you look at your career and you're like, wow, that's
my very first record I ever bought was a, you know, Gap Band, Charlie Wilson record. Wow. I used to listen to that thing all the time. It was, you know,
45?
Yeah, 45. You know what I'm saying? Drop the needle on it.
Exactly.
And I'd run it back. You know what I mean? And then, you know, so it's crazy, man.
Cool, cool. Well, when we come back, we want to talk about how you got started and try to bring everybody up from then to now.
Okay.
And we're back right here in the studio with the one and only Calvin Richardson. Man, how did this all get started? How did you decide that music is what you had to do?
Well, man, it goes all the way back. My mom started me singing, me and my brothers singing, you know, when I was a kid in the church. So there was 5 of us, man, and I was the youngest one. So, you know, I don't know how I got to be the lead singer of the group, but it worked out like that, man. And, you know, ever since then, like my mom, she was a gospel singer as well, her and her sisters and my grandmother. So it just, you know, I just love to do it. Okay. And then, you know, we was living in South Carolina. I'm originally from McBee, South Carolina, and we moved up to North Carolina. Okay. And I met Casey and JoJo. We went to school together. All right. You know, and we was doing talent shows and stuff like that together, and they had a group called Little Cedric and the Haley Singers, and you know, yeah, and they mom, she came to me one Sunday. She seen me at a church and stuff, and she was like, "Yo, I want you I'm gonna talk to Cedric. I want to put you in this gospel group with Cedric." And so, you know, I went over to their house, man, and then I got in the gospel group with them, and it, you know, it just kind of went from there, man. We was just doing the talent shows around the city and stuff like that, man. It just, I knew from that point, like, that just was what I really want to do. Not that I didn't want to work, right? But I didn't want to work. You feel what I'm saying?
I hear you.
I'd rather be singing.
It's always good
doing what you love.
Doing what you love.
Yeah, because you know, like I've heard it a million times, and I, you know, hate to repeat it, but it's true. Maybe there's somebody that have never heard this, but if you find a job that you love, you'll never have to work again. Exactly. You feel what I'm saying? Because your work is not like work. Exactly. You're just doing what you love to do.
Cool. So from the Haley days to now, like, what happened? How did you even get from that stage to the big stage?
Well, it took a while, man. You know, Casey and JoJo, they had moved to Charlotte, and they got with Dalvin and Devontae, you know, and they formed Jodeci, and you know, and they went on to become Jodeci. And so after that, like a couple of years after that, I put together a group myself called Undercover, which consisted of myself, my brother, and a couple of hometown friends. And we went up to New York, and we, you know, we did the demos and stuff like that, and we got a record deal as well. And we signed on with Tommy Boy Records, and worked on the album for probably like a year. And the album never came out. They decided that they wanted to break the group down into just one person. They just wanted a solo artist. You feel what I'm saying? Got you. And so that was a tough decision that I had to make. You feel what I'm saying? Because I didn't really want to, you know, leave my brothers and them out like that, man. It was like, you know, it was new for all of us and stuff, man. So I wouldn't take the solo deal, man. But then, you know, they decided not to put the project out.
They just dropped it.
So I had to make a decision. Either I wanted to be dropped, or I wanted to do my thing solo, or, you know what I'm saying? Or because, you know, everybody else in the group, they didn't have the same drive and the same love for the music that I did. So Heavy D, when we was working on that album, that Undercover album, Heavy D was working on Monifa's album. Yeah, so he used to stick his head in the studio a lot, you know what I mean? And, you know, he called me out, and he was like, "Yo, man, you want to do a solo album? You know, I'm head of Uptown now." You know, that's when he had just replaced Andre Harrell. And I was like, "Nah, man." But after you know, the group kind of dispersed and stuff, man, Damian Blight and Dio, that was Heavy's man. He was working for Hev or whatever, and he was like, you know, he ran into me one night, and he told me, like, "Look, man, we can give you this solo deal, you know what I mean, if you want it." So I took the deal, man. I'm glad it was still on the table. Yeah, me too. Because a lot of times they just yank it up and that's it. It could have been gone, yeah. And so, you know, but it's been a long road. I've been from label to label, man, since then. You know what I mean? I went to I was on Uptown, and then we started working on that album. Heavy had Soul For Real. He had McGruff. He had Monifa. He had his own album that he was working on, and the Lost Boys. And you know, he put everybody, like, it's like, okay, I'm gonna put you on the board right here, write your name. Now I'm gonna start on this album, I'm gonna work my way backwards, you know what I mean? Matter of fact, I'm gonna put my album out first, you know what I mean? So all y'all gotta wait, you know. And then